Hi, I'm Bob Drach. I'm running for North Carolina State Auditor, and I want to tell you the reasons why you should vote for me and answer a couple questions for you. So again, I'm Bob Drach, running for North Carolina State Auditor. And the first reason you should vote for me is because I'm independent. And by independent, I mean I'm not a member of one of the major political parties that dominate state politics. Now, for an auditor, that's very important. The American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, those are the CPAs. That's the professional organization that is in charge of managing the rules of the profession. They say an auditor should be independent in both fact and appearance. So it's not enough just to be independent. You have to appear to be independent. And this is important in a public position, of course, because even if it looks like you're biased, that's going to reflect poorly on the office. So we know the government is dominated by Republicans and Democrats. So a Republican auditing Republicans and a Democrat auditing Democrats, that's a problem. We call that a conflict of interest, or at least the appearance of a conflict of interest. So my two opponents in this race are conflicted. I'm the independent candidate. The second reason to consider voting for me is that I'm the qualified candidate. And this is crazy, but the other two candidates are lawyers and politicians. They are not accountants. In contrast, I'm a certified management accountant, a CMA. That means the Institute of Management Accountants, another professional organization, put together a five-part exam on all the body of knowledge that a management accountant requires. I passed the exam, and I've followed up with them over the years to maintain my continuing professional education or report on it. None of the other candidates have done that. Now, you would think an auditor should be an accountant, right? If you've got a tax problem or financial reporting problem, you go to an accountant, not a lawyer. So it's a pretty big deal. In fact, it's been said of one of my opponents by a former auditor that she doesn't have a clue. And we'll talk more about that later, but it's obviously a problem. And I'm the only candidate that can address that problem. In addition, my qualifications include a business degree from the Stanford University Graduate School of Business, which is one of the leading institutions in the country. I've managed professional organizations the size of the state auditor's office. I was an accountant or a consultant with Deloitte. Deloitte is one of the major public accounting firms in the world. And they have an audit practice, a consulting practice, and a tax practice. I didn't work in tax or in audit. I worked in consulting, but I worked with partners in tax and audit, and I understand the requirements of those positions. So I've got a wealth of professional experience and qualifications for the job. The third reason to consider voting for me is the scandal in the state auditor's office. And some of you may have heard about this, but last year, the last elected state auditor was found to have ethical problems. She misused state assets. She got into a hit-and-run situation. She originally denied it, my understanding. She originally denied it, but there was video evidence. Eventually, she was forced to resign because the auditor, as we've discussed, requires a high level of professional standards and ethics. And she obviously failed in that capacity. So she resigned, and then in December was replaced by a political appointee. So there's several problems here. You've been in an organization where there's bad leadership at the top. That permeates the organization. The morale of that office has to be difficult. And it's not an easy situation for the new political appointee to try to manage. In fact, if you look over the last 6 months, the staffing in the state auditor's office is down to 120 people. That's down from a while ago when it was up to 150 people. So staffing is down by about 20%. If you look at the output of the office in terms of the audits that have been published on the state auditor website, that's down by about 20% in the last 4 months. So there are obviously problems in the state auditor's office, and they're having difficulty performing their public function of discouraging or preventing and reporting on waste, fraud, and abuse in the North Carolina state government. So the answer to these problems in the state auditor's office is to bring in someone who's qualified, who's independent, and has the professional experience to turn around the office of the state auditor. So I would submit these 3 reasons: independence, qualifications, and fixing the problems in the state auditor's office. These are the reasons to vote for Bob Drach for the North Carolina State Auditor. Now, I've been asked several questions as I've been campaigning, and I'm just going to restate those questions for you and answer them because you may have the same types of questions. The first question I have is, why are you running? So the reason I'm running for state auditor, it goes back to when I turned 18 years old, and I had to register for the draft. This was right during the Vietnam era, right after the Vietnam era, and the draft wasn't mandatory, but I had to register. And I thought hard about the people I knew that had gone to Vietnam, and I thought about my responsibility as a citizen. Right? Would I go to Southeast Asia and kill people I didn't even know because the government told me to do that? Well, you know, I may have done that. I registered for the draft. But I also did 2 other things. I registered to vote as a libertarian. Now, the Libertarian Party believes in the non-aggression principle. That's basically don't hurt other people. And that was consistent with my values. The second thing I eventually did is I joined the United States Peace Corps. I believed in national service, but if I have a choice, I'm going to serve in the name of peace, in education and cultural exchange with the U.S. Peace Corps. So that's what I did. I served for 2 years as a science professor, science teacher in the secondary schools in Tanzania, in East Africa. So I've had a good professional career. I've been a professional accountant. I've been the CFO of an organization, the president of several companies. My last job was the chief information officer of a large privately held company. So I understand information technology, which is very important in the accounting profession. And I want to bring those skills and that experience to bear again in public service, serving as a state auditor. And I appreciate your vote for Bob Drach for the North Carolina State Auditor. Another question, of course, is why state auditor? Why not treasurer or another role? Well, I've mentioned my professional qualifications: a certified accountant, working over 4 years for Deloitte, a master in business administration from Stanford University, and great professional experience. That lines up best with the Office of State Auditor. In addition, we talked about the problems in the office, and I'm uniquely positioned to solve those problems. So I'm the best candidate for the Office of State Auditor. I would do a very good job in that role, and so I'm pleased to run for that office and to try to serve my community in that capacity. The next question I have here is, what makes you better? What makes you better? Well, at the risk of repeating myself, I'm independent. There's no conflict of interest. I'm qualified. I'm an accountant. I'm a certified management accountant. These are the 2 things that are required to fix the problems at the Office of the State Auditor. So again, I'd ask for your vote for those reasons. Sometimes I'm asked, why a libertarian? You know, why not run independent or run one of the major parties? Well, the main reason for being an independent, or for being a libertarian, is the values of libertarians line up with my values. I've already told you about the non-aggression principle. Don't hurt others. Other libertarian values include the belief in natural law. Right? Thomas Jefferson, when he wrote the Declaration of Independence, he said that we believe these truths to be self-evident. Well, that's referring to natural law. Also in the Declaration of Independence, he talks about civil liberties. So natural law, civil liberties, these are core values of libertarians, and I ascribe to these. A second reason for being a libertarian, we've already discussed the importance of being independent. And Republicans and Democrats can't be independent in a government that's dominated by Republicans and Democrats. So by being a libertarian, I can be the most effective in the role of state auditor. A third reason is it's just an advantage in North Carolina to be affiliated with a political party. Now, it's true that 40%, the biggest block of voters, 40% of voters are independent, or either, what's the word we use in North Carolina? Unaffiliated. 30% are Republican and 30% are Democrat. So it's the largest voting bloc, but it's very hard to get on the ballot as an unaffiliated. The Libertarian Party is the third largest political party in the United States. It's in almost every single state, and it's the third largest political party in North Carolina. So it's a natural place for independent voters, independent people who want to serve state government, but aren't completely aligned with either the Republicans or the Democrats. So I'm pleased to run as a libertarian, as an independent. Another question I get recently is, any updates to the scandal? What's going on at the state auditor's office? So I'll answer that. Let me take another drink. So just this past weekend, some of you may have seen WRAL, a news station in Raleigh, ran a report about the prior state auditor, the one who had to resign for ethical issues. She's come out now and done two things. She slammed her opponent, her replacement, who's now the incumbent state auditor, and she said she's unqualified, which, if you look on paper, she's a lawyer, not an accountant. She's been in politics, not in accounting. So there's an appearance there that she's unqualified. But the former state auditor said she doesn't have a clue. Well, that's a problem. She's getting involved in the state auditor's office again. It just shows a lack of judgment, and part of the reason she had to resign. And it doesn't reflect well on either of the two. But then the former auditor went one step further and endorsed the other lawyer, endorsed the other candidate, who on paper is no more qualified, or not much different from the incumbent. So it's kind of crazy. Some people say that she's poisoning the well, that there's some bitterness there. It's definitely poisoning the well. Now, the person she endorsed, you would think he would run away from that endorsement, right? You can't control what another person says, but you can certainly say, hey, you were ethically challenged, the state auditor's office has problems. It's nice that you endorsed me, but I don't accept that. I'm running to be independent, apolitical, which is my position. But of course, that hasn't happened. So you really just got a huge mess in the state auditor's office. Really, the only pathway out of this mess is to find the independent, the qualified candidate who's got experience in managing this type of organization, and see if we can restore the reputation and the integrity of the Office of State Auditor. So I appreciate you listening to these reasons for electing Bob Drach for North Carolina State Auditor. People have asked me, how do we get in touch with you, Bob, or how do we learn more? Well, the first thing is my website, which is www.electdrach.org. No spaces there, electdrach.org. Or you can follow me on social media. I've got an account on X or Twitter, now called X. It's Elect Drach. You can find me on Facebook, Elect Bob Drach for North Carolina State Auditor. I've got a LinkedIn account, Bob Drach, and you can find me on Instagram as well. So please follow me online, see what's going on in the campaign, learn about why you should elect me to clean up the mess in the state auditor's office. And again, I would just say thank you, and please tell others. Now that you know what's going on and you know that I'm the best candidate, I need your votes, but I need votes from 2 million people to win this election. So tell others, and let's address the problems that North Carolina has together. Thank you.